At the age of 90, Dr. Trude Rosenberg is an accomplished scholar, a clinical psychologist, and an author. But when she was a teenager in Poland in the 1940s, her life was thrown off course by the Holocaust. She prefers the Hebrew term Shoah, which means destruction. Capital News reporters met with Rosenberg at her Ottawa apartment and sat spellbound while she recounted her story.
The moment the Russians came in, our lives were completely, I wouldn't say destroyed, but changed drastically. One member of family after another was seized and taken away, either to a camp or to forced labor, or to a destruction camp, a death camp, including myself. I jumped out of the train several kilometers before the train reached the camp, and everybody in the train was murdered right there and then, and their bodies burned, so there were no graves, nothing. Just what happens when you are murdered and burned afterwards? Dust. We were all packed in an animal train. These were not trains for people. And people were sitting on one another, people were lying on one another, just to have a spot where they can rest. It was crowded, it was hot, it was inhuman. Two young boys actually, came over to us, to me particularly, and said, "Would you, if we helped you to jump, would you?" I wasn't a big jumper in the first place, and certainly didn't think that I'm going to jump from a moving train. So I just looked at my aunt, and I said, "Well, shall I? So one said, "If you feel like it, do." And the other one said, "What else? If you feel like it, jump." So the two boys lifted me up to the window far above me and turned me in such a way that I was in the prone position in order to be able to jump afterwards. So first I was holding on to the ledge. They pushed me down so that I can hold on to the window, to the ledge of the window. It's hard to imagine the noise, the shouting, the crying within the train. People were frightened. My aunt started chanting Kol Nidre. The chant would beg the Almighty to forgive all sins that we may have had. And of course she meant me before I jumped. And as soon as she stopped chanting, the boys shouted, "Jump!" Which I did. And when I arrived in the ghetto and went to that place where my mother, I hoped my mother still was, she came out and she didn't recognize me. And the first thing she said, "Oh, we don't need anything." Because often people would come into the ghetto to sell something, to exchange something, not buy. And to this, I, of course, uttered, "Mama." She didn't believe. And they then told her that I was with her two sisters. And this is another scene that I'll never forget. She looked at me and said, "And you were able to leave them?" Again, a reminder that I wasn't, where was my humanity? That I was able to leave her two sisters. And her last sentence to me was, "Don't let anything happen to your Jewish soul." And that was the goodbye. And the train was leaving for Warsaw. And I was in that train with my mother's cousin and her little boy. I never saw my mother again. I got a note when I was a maid. About 3 or 4 weeks later, it was still in November. Her mother went on the way of sacrifice, and the horrible emptiness remained. I want to make absolutely sure that I don't come across as hating any nation. That's not my style. I really believe that I still follow the Bible, to love our neighbors and to do everything possible. I don't know how long it'll take until everybody will think this way, but this is how I think.